Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Rose Gold Goose podcast. My name is Ashlyn, and joining me today is the lovely, beautiful Logan Jones. Hey Logan, what's up? How you doing?
Hey Ashlyn, doing great. Excited to be here.
You're good. I want to talk about Logan's shirt because this is an app that she created. So can you tell the people what that is?
Sure, yeah, I'm currently working. I'd call it a project right now. Everyone asks how business is, but it's not business till you make money, right? So I'm working on a social investing app that allows you to see what your friends and family are investing in so that you can learn and grow together in your investing portfolio.
That was a lot of math, finance language that I don't understand.
You cannot be for real.
But
What happened here is a classic case of Ashlyn's undiagnosed ADHD, where Logan gave a comprehensive explanation of her app and Ashlyn was too busy thinking of her next thought to pay attention. You may continue.
But that's really awesome. I'm proud of you. I love friends who create things just in different avenues because we're all not meant to do the same thing or have the same talents. So I think that's a beautiful way that Logan is using her talent in finances, and she's also a lawyer. So just in case y'all try to get me caught up, I already got somebody on retainer. Can I afford her yet? No.
I'm not doing criminal law. I keep telling people, stop trying to go to jail. Well, what am I going to jail? Why are you trying to go to jail?
I mean, in this economy, I feel like crime is where we're headed to survive. I don't know. But anyway, so I have decided that these episodes will try to fit within a 30-minute window.
Oh, wow.
They've been a little long-winded.
So Logan is going to be in charge of keeping time for us. Now. Yep. It's fine. We'll give like 2 or 3 minutes for like just intro discretion. That's not the right word. Anyway, I would like to keep the episodes compact just so that way you guys can actually listen and not feel like you're listening all day long. I get it. I will get sent long podcasts and I don't listen to them until I'm like cleaning or something. But anyway, so Logan, today we said we were going to try to talk about some rejection topics and we will see where that leads us. So just share with me some of the thoughts that we were talking about earlier about instead of rejection, you called it not protection, which is like really cliche, but the way you explained it was perfect.
Yeah. I just think that like rejection is almost the wrong perspective. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's valid, right? Like rejection does happen. People feel it. We feel it. I've felt it. But I think when you think of it the right way, it's really just redirection to the things that are for you, whether that's a job, whether that's a friendship, whether that's a relationship. Mm-hmm. It's just redirection. And so I was telling Ashlyn earlier, like I'm praying for closed doors. Yeah. Because open doors, what does that mean? There could be a million open doors.
Yes. And I was listening to her voice message like, oh my gosh, that makes so much. I've never heard it phrased like that because you're right. You could literally do anything. There could be 50 million options, but it'd be easier if there was only one option available. Then you're like, okay, Lord, this must be what you want me to do. But sorry, go ahead.
Right. Or it's narrowed down. But like I'm praying for closed doors because then that's a concrete answer. Yes. This is not for me. This job is not for me. This man is not for me. Yeah. This friendship's no longer for me. But when you have open doors, if I have a million open doors, like God close as many as you can so that I can see, even if it's down to 5, right? And then we're like walking in faith or there's something that draws you more clearly or whatever the case may be. Obviously it depends on the circumstance. But I think it's all redirection. Like I think about a good example. I was about a year or 2 years ago, I was in the process for hiring for this company, right? Mm-hmm. So I went through the first interview. Guy was pretty impressed with me, but like I was pretty new for the industry and the role that I was applying for, pretty green. And I remember he continued to talk to me like I was really green. Like he was super supportive, but it was almost like I was a student out of like undergrad and I was like out of law school trying to get, and I was already had a role as chief of staff looking to get another role, right? Yeah. So I remember going through that interview process. I made it to like a 3rd round interview before he finally was like, yeah, this, like, you're just too green. And it's like, yeah, I felt that the whole way through the process, right? Yeah. Out of nowhere, on LinkedIn, the CEO reaches out to me and he goes, hey, Logan, we're looking to hire a remote chief of staff. Like, really impressed with your resume. Would love to hop on a call. Within a week, literally it was like 7 days, I had an offer to make 3 times as much as I was making at the time. Wow. Mind you, I was disappointed at the time. Yeah, I'm like, I thought like, this is going to be it. Right, yeah. All these rejections, I finally got an interview, was moving through the rounds, and out of nowhere, the path I didn't even know existed. Yeah. Like opened up right in front of me.
But I feel like that's how God works best, is when we can't see him coming. Right. But I think you can relate to this because, I don't categorize you as an overthinker. I feel like you're a strategist, if that makes sense.
I'll take it.
But like we do like assess things very often. Like in our friendship, when we have discussions, we are really good at like assessing like what somebody's motive was, why this happened, why it didn't happen, or whatever. So I feel like with God, it's really hard for me not to over assess what I think God's going to do. And I think everybody's guilty of this, or like, where is this blessing going to come from? Where's the manna going to come from? Because I'm already thinking, okay, he sends me to this job, so I meet this person, and this person gets me connected to this, and it's like the first day of the job, and I'm already trying to figure out where God's taking me and what the blessing is. I'm like, okay, yes, I'm like, I know I'm here for a reason, and I'm already trying to like foreshadow where the Lord is, and then he always comes out of left field.
Yep.
With something completely different, which I love, because then it always reminds me, like, you know, the Lord has made us wise, because we are made in his image, but we're not all seeing and all knowing the way he is. So we never know how he's going to make something happen. We just have to have faith that he's going to make something happen.
And then we can't take credit. I can't take credit for that. I didn't know
because you had nothing to do with it. And like the plot, like I used to say that I do say that I know that like future things don't come by me plotting and scheming. Like I've watched people move places, like move things into place for them to succeed, or for them to start dating that person, that like they put themselves in the room. And I get it, like putting yourself in a place of opportunity to be seen or to be picked or whatever. But I also more so love when God is the one to surprise you, and just like I said, like pull it out of nowhere. Because you were saying you said something about when manna stops earlier. So like, could you explain what you meant by that when you were saying like when manna stops and then something else is on the way?
Yeah. So I'm in a season right now where the income that I had is ending soon. And I was talking to a mentor, and she was like, you know, everything you're saying makes me think of this sermon that I was just listening to. And the pastor, I guess, was saying that when the Lord was getting ready to take the Israelites into the promised land, the manna stopped.
Yeah.
And while that feels really uncomfortable, because you're like, oh my gosh, what's about to happen? He was actually preparing them for prosperity, for the promised land. Yeah. They were entering in to start eating of the land and eating better food than just, I mean, what can be better than manna in one way? Yeah. But like, you had the same bread and quail every day for however many years. Now you're about to go and farm and eat of the land.
Yeah.
And so there's this, you know, the takeaway was that sometimes when manna stops, it's because God's actually about to send you into prosperity.
Yeah. And I think like that gap is where we get lost, like just like the Israelites wandered for a while. Like we start trying to do our own thing or make something happen, because if we don't see like God coming in with that last like Hail Mary of what we thought he was going to do, if we don't see it, then we start like getting our gears turning, or like putting our feelers out, trying to plan something instead of just waiting. But I also get that. Like I was listening to a sermon this morning. I have no idea who the guy was. My mom constantly has TBN on our TV. And like, there's some pastors I love on there, and some where I'm like, yeah, we're going to turn the channel. You're scaring me, and not in a good biblical way. Like I'm embarrassed to be a Christian kind of way. And he was talking about the state of planning and the scripture about worry, and not to like worry about the next day. But that does not mean that the Lord doesn't want you to be wise and like plan, like save your money and strategize certain
you can't
things.
Just be lazy and be like, God's gonna do it.
Yes, but you submit the plan to the Lord. That's the difference. So it's not a contradictory statement. It's yes, you should plan, but whatever plan you come up with in interim, submit it to the Lord. Like, all right, Lord, I know you're going to come through with that job that I need, but I know this bill is due in 2 weeks. So I'm not going to be lazy. I'll go ahead and get this job that I really don't want, but I know I need to provide some sort of income. And if you come through with something else, great. If not, then at least I, stewarded over the resources that are available to me. So I think like we get caught up in that space of like not getting what we want, and then that little pocket of pain where there's like the feeling of rejection, or not having what you wanted. And then you start doing your own sort of things. Like, what do you say about like when you start toiling and getting in your workshop and doing things that you feel like you're supposed to do that the Lord never asked you to do?
What do I do?
Yeah. What are your thoughts around that? Like when we are expecting from the Lord, but it's not coming in the time frame in which we thought it was supposed to come, and we start doing whatever we think is necessary, or we start being disobedient, which we talked about last time.
Yeah. No, and I think you find out where your faith is in moments like that, right? Mm-hmm. I think you also
find out where your faith is.
Go ahead. No, I think you also have to know, like you kind of brought up earlier, like you and I are both really introspective people, which is why we also assess everyone else's motives and everything that's happening around us.
There's got to be a reason.
Yeah, and I think you have to know yourself. So like I easily slip into hustle culture. Like I used to work like 70 hours a week, like grinding. Like COVID is the thing that like sat me on my butt and made me like assess my life and like what my goals were. And this is when I was even like not even walking with the Lord in the way that I am now. But I think you have to be aware of yourself, because for me, I know I slip into hustle culture. So I'm constantly on the lookout of like, okay, Lord, is this actually like a wise step for me to just like, you got to make money, you got to make money, you got to do what you got to do and pay your bills? Or is this me not trusting you to come through in a place where you've told me to sit still, right? Like I'm in a season right now where I'm working on this app. I know the Lord called me to that. As I let you know, like I was let go from my job out of like almost nowhere. It happened very fast and very unexpectedly. I can't say too much for legal reasons. But I immediately knew, I said, this is the Lord kicking me out of Nest to work on Ticker, which I'd been working on for a year at that point already. And just the way everything has come together in the last 6 months has been, it could only be God. Like it's just crazy. I have a team of 8 people working with me right now. We have no funding and like this app is almost built. Crazy. So for me, I know this is a sit still season, and not sit still and do nothing, but like wait on the Lord in the expectancy that is, right? Like that is not a passive term. That's an active term. Like if you knew I was coming to your house today, you knew we were recording this podcast. You're not just standing by your window like, when's Logan going to get here? You're setting up the light that's blinding us right now. You're setting up the chairs.
That's currently giving me a migraine.
Like you're getting ready. You're expecting. So if you're expecting the Lord to show up, what does that look like? That looks different for all of us. Good. But for me, it's like, okay, God told me to work on this app. So I was like, what do I need? I need developers. So then I formed this partnership with this university that had master's students that would build the app for me as part of their education.
Oh, wow.
And then I ended up getting these product managers, and like I'm doing all these things. I'm reaching out to college students at different universities because they're going to be kind of the first users on the app, because they're more social. They have investing clubs already, blah, blah, blah. So like, what am I doing this season? I'm preparing and trusting that the Lord's going to bring the funds. He's already provided certain manna for me over the last 6 months since I've been unemployed. But as that time's running out, I'm like, okay, I'm submitting some applications where I'm like, Lord, shut the door, but like I'm going to apply and not just sit idly by. I do have this opportunity to potentially go be a professor at my alma mater. Like there's all these doors that are opening. I just want to make sure that the Lord, and not a temptation of like, here's the stability that you want, or can I just trust God with the manna through this season for even better, for the promised land that I do believe he's like put in my heart to believe for, right?
It's an active waiting.
Right, it's an active waiting. So I don't know if that answered your question, but something you said was...
Don't matter. It was all good what she said, so...
No, but something you said made me think of this. I've quoted this so much this season. I'm going to butcher this like modern day parable, but have you ever heard the like story where it's like a little boy... This story doesn't make sense because it's like a kid on an island and there's like flooding. But just stay with me.
Go, I got you.
So the kid's on the island, or it's like a man who's on an island and it's flooding, right? And so these people show up with a life jacket, and they're like, hey man, like you want a life jacket? He's like, no, I'm good, God's gonna save me. And they're like, okay.
Oh yes, okay, good.
And then like the floods are going higher. He's like on a roof, and like someone comes with a boat, and they're like, hey man, like we're going to safety. Do you want to come? No, it's okay, God's gonna save me. And then finally, it's like the final moment, and he's like, really, the waters are high, and a helicopter comes by, and they're like, hey man, like get on the helicopter, like we're here to save you. And he's like, no, it's okay, God's gonna save me. Then he drowns and he dies and he gets to heaven and he's like, God, I thought you were going to save me. He's like, I did.
I try to help you and this is as thanks as I get.
And the helicopter, like, what more do you want from me? And like, I never want to miss it. I never want to miss it.
Yeah. I think like I explained to my counselor, therapist, whatever you guys want to call her, but my Christian counselor therapist, I gave her a long title because I love her. But she pointed out some things to me as far as like being afraid that I'll miss something that the Lord wanted for me. But I feel like we can't, when we're constantly in touch with the Lord and like we're walking with the Lord actively, there's no way you can miss what the Lord has for you. Like it'll come in a different shape, maybe a different flavor, whatever. But you won't miss something that you've already submitted to the Lord, if that makes sense. So like I try to look at like that, because I get like that where I'm like, well, what if this is not the Lord? And like, what if I'm doing this wrong? And then I remember that like the Lord does not operate in fear. And like, so he gives us peace about things that he wants us to do, but he never sends us to be afraid of something in order to get us to do what he wants us to do. That's not something that he would do, but I recognize that he absolutely will make you uncomfortable to get you to that thing that he would want you to do, or that path that you've so desperately prayed for. If he sees you not moving, he starts, like you said, like shutting doors, or like just closing things down. Like I've been fired from a job before, like, and it was just such a wrongful termination. And there's some moments where I think about it, I'm just like, that was so messed up. But then I realized I was never going to leave that job. Like I was comfortable in the dysfunction, and I was never going to leave. So the Lord like shifted all these things, and then I ended up getting fired, and I was almost like, well, what the heck happened? And there were so many times where the Lord was very clearly being like, you need to leave this job. Like this is no longer fruitful for you. It's not healthy for you. You need to leave this place of work. But I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Hustle culture mindset. Like, okay, I can't just quit a job without having another one, because we always say that.
Right.
But the Lord was just like, you got to go. So he made it so uncomfortable. And then once I wasn't listening to the uncomfortable surroundings and no longer had peace, he was like, okay, well then still call that a blessing, because the Lord just kind of like kicked me out the door and was like, okay, since you're not, I feel like that was him like taking extra special care of me, because he could have left me there to rot, but he didn't. He just knew that I was still praying, Lord, I still want you to do what your will is, but I wasn't sure or not if I should leave. And there's some things where I'm like, okay, if the Lord is giving me an unrest about something, not a fear, but just like this is probably not what I should do, or this is something I should do, and I have peace about it, then I have to trust that the time that I spend with the Lord in prayer, in conversation, because that's what prayer is going to lead me to a path that he's going to bless regardless.
Yeah.
And like not being afraid to miss it so much that I miss all of the opportunities that he sends my way, like that scenario, because I'm so worried that I'm going to pick the wrong thing, because he doesn't provide anxiety either. So if anxiety and fear are not of the Lord, and I'm anxious about missing something, or I'm fearful of taking on something, then I probably should submit that back to the Lord and figure out what, he's saying. But he just works in different ways, and which we've all heard 1,000 times, but we can't foresee what he's going to do or how he's going to move. We just have to be open to what he's going to do.
Yeah, and I think to your point, sometimes he blesses us either way. Like when we're so just in line with him and who he wants us to be, like we've made him the desire of our hearts, right? Like sometimes I think that there could be multiple paths, and this is why I say the thing, like I'd rather more closed doors, because there could be multiple doors open where the Lord's like, I'll bless you wherever you go, as long as it's more about who you are than what you're doing. But I also think the thing I struggle with when people say, like, don't over-spiritualize everything, I agree with that. There are people that over-spiritualize things. Yeah. But the Bible says that God has a plan for our lives, right? Like, there is a plan. There are things that he wants to accomplish through us on this earth, as, like, on earth as in heaven, right? And so I think, like, we do have to be very open and discerning to, like, what that path might look like. And there could be multiple paths that still lead to, like, sometimes it's a fork in the road that still all leads to the same connection point in the middle. But you don't know that, right? He does. So I don't know what my point is there. Yeah. But it's just like there's multiple sides to consider. Like sometimes God blesses all the paths, but I do think that sometimes like there is something very clear that the Lord wants us to do. Like when you're going to college, like there could be a university that the Lord specifically has for you, because if you go to North Carolina or you go to California, your life is going to look very different. And the opportunities you have may look very different. Yeah. And the crowd you're around and all of those things. So, but at the same time, he's sovereign, and I think he works it all out regardless.
Yeah. And sometimes like the Lord allows you to see why he didn't pick that thing for you, and I love that, because I think I said this last episode, but like he really doesn't owe me an explanation as to why I need to be here and not there, but it's such a blessing when he shows me why he did put me somewhere else, and I can be like, oh, like it kind of just gives my faith an extra boost. Like, not that, again, my faith is my faith, period, but when the Lord is gracious enough to show me this is why I didn't want you here, or for me personally, he's like, this is why this wasn't your future husband, and I'm like, oh, I see. He has an anger problem. Okay. Or he has some other things going on, or actually he doesn't know you at all, and I didn't know that he didn't know you. So there's different things like that where the Lord will show you, like, this is why this, what we call rejection. But what was the other word that you used? Not redirection was done, because you big goof, this is what I wanted for you, not this. And so, but if you don't get to see that, like you said, you're still going to have a blessing somewhere, and the Lord's still going to be intentional with your life, as long as you're being intentional with your walk with God. Yeah. So I think that's great. But I want to get back to the main topic of like rejection, and just like, I think there's a sting that comes with rejection that sometimes we try to paint over with the redirection, which I believe is great. Because I think you said something earlier about like changing your mindset about rejection, and not that you're being rejected, but you're being redirected. Or a lot of people will say it's not rejection, it's God's protection. And then we paint over that middle part where the rejection really, really hurts.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk about like sometimes the pain that comes with rejection and how you sit in that and give it to God to bless. Because for me personally, I've experienced a lot of like relational rejection. And so every time that happened, me and my Christian counselor therapist talked about how I would just basically build up this vest of insecurity, and every time I would be rejected, the vest would like have another patch added to it, and just like it would get heavier and heavier. But then it also felt like a protection that it would like feed my insecurities. So if I was rejected by like a guy, like my insecurity vest would be like, see, it is because you're this, it is because you're not that. And I'd be like, okay, and I'd hold it a little tighter, and I'd, wear it a little longer because, or it would be a job opportunity that I didn't get picked for, or a friend group that hung out without me and I didn't know the context of them hanging out without me. And every time it would just get a little stronger, it would get a little tighter, and I never wanted to take it off because it also felt like protection. In the opposite of it being God's protection,
right?
It felt like the rejection feeding the insecurity vest was keeping me from being embarrassed or feeling bad about myself. Like it was just reminding me like, hey, so you're not actually good enough for this thing, or you're not actually pretty enough for this person. And if you just play it safe and stay away from those opportunities, then you won't get let down. You won't be reminded that you're not good enough, you're not whatever enough. So I think I want to ask you, like, how did you learn how to sit in the pain of rejection, whether it was relational or are you still learning? Or I mean, it's a process. I'm still learning.
No, I mean, I think transparently, like, I mean, I just shared my mindset with you. I don't think it's any surprise to anyone who knows me that like I am very much like led by logic and not emotion.
Cutthroat.
And I'm learning more so in this season. This has been a very formative season in my life. Like I even know that now going through it. Like just the reminder of like emotions bring us closer to the Lord and not take us further if we like allow them to. I don't like to be led by emotions. So like that is why my perspective is it is redirection. So like I talk about getting fired. My first words out of my mouth was, this is God kicking me out of the nest to work on Ticker. Like it was redirection. That's how I processed it. But I think even I don't carry rejection long at all.
Okay.
But I do think like this last season, one thing that was hard is that I was actually, it was a remote company. We had just gone on a retreat together. I'm trying to think of how much I can say about this legally. So pretty much,
it, Lord.
Like was told seemingly from my perspective out of nowhere that my job was on the line on Nikki's birthday, my best friend's birthday on October 18th, which was a Friday. That Monday, we were going on a company retreat that I had organized down in Kissimmee, Florida. We got these 2 mansions, like it was like 20 something people, meeting most of the team for the first time. So I was up on like the executive level. So I'd met them, but I had not met the rest of the team that mostly reported to me, came to me for support and things like that, and like HR and whatnot. I had just met all of those people, had a great week. We all had fun, got to know them. I'm very much like, I'm one of those people who realizes like, yeah, your work friends are your work friends. I don't expect you to necessarily carry on, but I have a lot of friends that I've carried on as work friends after that. So I'm not one of those like you see on like Threads and X that like Twitter where people are like, it's just your work friend. So like, not that I expected these to be lifelong relationships, but we had just met. We were all friends. Everybody had my number. I stayed in Florida for that weekend because my best friend from high school, who's also named Logan, lives down there. So I stayed with her, and I was flying out on Tuesday. Got on a call on Monday with my boss, and within the first 2 minutes, it was just like, yeah, we don't see a viable path forward. Like I talked to the other executives, essentially, we don't see a viable path forward, so we decided to let you go. Now we're gonna let you respond. And I'm like, well, first of all, anything? Yeah, right. But anyway, that's not the point.
Thank you.
I had a couple people in my company that I worked closely with, so like I heard from them. One person I let him know personally, but did not hear from anyone else in the company. Like, I knew when it got announced to the company.
Yeah.
Everyone had just met me. People reached out to me over the weekend. Logan, this was a great retreat. You're doing an awesome job. Thanks so much. Nobody reached out to be like, yo, what the heck? Or, hey, are you okay?
Yeah.
Or, oh my, I was so sorry to hear. One girl reached out to me 2 weeks later and like said like, you know, hey, I've been thinking about you. Apologize, blah, blah, blah. She ended up calling me for advice later on with some things at work. And she said to me, she was like, yeah, I'm not surprised that nobody reached out. It very much seems like the environment where like, if you're in, but if you're not, you're not. Yeah. So that has been rejection, I would say. I'm realizing it's talking to you and being transparent with everyone that like, that's been rejection I've been sitting with.
Yeah.
And over the last few weeks, I think I've been dealing with it a little bit more, but it's just like, man, like nobody reached out. Yeah. Nobody reached out. Not that I'm so self-important to think I made some last.
No. But it makes you feel a little. It makes you feel a little worthless because we've talked like I've experienced job or career rejection before, aside from that job, and it does. It's like a personal hit, not to your ego, but to your person, where you do feel like, was I not good enough? But like, did no one care enough about me? Did I not make an impact enough as far as like you caring enough or seeing something in me that would prompt you to ask me how I'm doing.
Right.
Because that's happened to me before, like stepping away from a role or scaling down a role. And the people who are in my corner contacting me every week, checking in on me, praying for me, just suddenly disappeared. And it was like, so did I ever mean anything to you outside of our professional roles? Like, why, be so personable when we're working together? And then suddenly that, like, I don't always shut that off, especially if you're working like in something like ministry. It's a very close-knit group. You are walking through life together. So in those aspects, you expect people to check in on you. That's part of the gig. Right. And then in corporate America, it's like, you would hope that we could form some human attachment, even though we're working behind computer screens. But to your point, I think that's a valid reaction to feeling like, okay. And then plus you did me lip service the whole retreat and telling me, like, I'm more of the course of like, if you don't, like people say, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it all. I'm of the thing where like, if you don't actually believe in the compliment you're giving me, please don't give it to me.
Right.
Because I sit with the compliment and I'm like, oh, thank you. That was so nice. And they really liked me. Wow. That was really nice of them to say that they enjoyed my company or they thought the project that I produced was good. Like, that feels good to have people say that. And then when their actions don't support the compliment they gave you, it's like, oh, now I see. Thank you so much. So I think that's a valid response to be a little hurt, not like, have an Ariel crying on a rock moment, but to just take it in and be like, wow, okay, that hurt a little. So, I mean, how are you learning to now process that different kind of pain that you typically don't sit with?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one that I've just like had to sit, like, I think this is one where the Lord's like, I'm not taking this away until you kind of deal with it. And I think it's just recognizing like, how does this bring me closer to God, right? Like, Jesus suffered the worst rejection. He was literally betrayed, but he was rejected by his own people. Like, when they were saying like, oh, he's a savior, like, the kid from down the street, are you kidding? Like, that couldn't be him, must be someone else.
Nazareth? Are you sure?
Right. So I think just recognizing, like, that's what I typically try to think through is like, when did Jesus feel like this? Like, if God experienced everything that we did, then when and how. And sometimes we're like, there's no way he did, like, he didn't sin. It's like, but he took on our sin. He felt that. He felt the consequence of it. So that's kind of how I frame my mindset is like, where did Jesus, deal with this, and how did he deal with it? Like, he brings it back to the Lord every time, to God.
I heard a friend say that it was like after my dad passed away, because they had also lost their father like years before. And she said to me that, when you're going through this grief, don't try to like skip over it. Like, bring it to the Lord first. Like, sit in the grief with your Father in heaven. And like those feelings that you feel, whether it's rejection, whether it's grief, whatever kind of pain, like, take it to the Lord. And like you said, like, he's not just going to take it away. It's like when people pray for patience and the Lord just gives you more opportunities to be patient. He doesn't just drop patience off at your doorstep. But with pain, it's like he gives you the opportunity to bring it to him.
Right.
Because he created those emotions. And what's the saying? The emotions are good navigators, not drivers. It's something like that.
Yeah.
Or like indicators,
not dictators.
Yes. Yeah. Like, you shouldn't use your emotions to decide what you're going to do or make decisions. But they do tell you which side of the pendulum, I guess, is swinging. Anyway, too many analogies wrapped in one. I don't know. But anyway.
Where are we swinging?
There's a lot in there.
But yeah, we got
it. So bringing those emotions to the Lord does grow your relationship. And I love what you just said about when did the Lord experience this emotion right now? When did he feel betrayed? When did he feel grief? When did he feel shame? Like when were those moments that he could feel what we feel and empathize with us? Because then I'm not serving a God who has no idea how I feel. Right. And it's just like, well, wipe your tears and get over it and continue to worship me. It's no, you can actually bring your pain to me while you're worshiping. That is worship.
Yeah,
yes.
Bring it to the altar.
You bringing things to him is worship. So I think that's really good. I will have you check the time for us because we've been doing good. So I think that this was a good conversation, and we will definitely be touching back on this at some point, just like in the other episodes. Like, this is not going to be a one and done, but I just want to thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
It's been lovely. You said a lot of good nuggets, and I will have fun putting them in and post edit. But thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Thanks, Rose Gold Goof Gang, or whatever. What are they called?
I gotta come up with something. I gotta ask ChatGPT. But anyway, you guys, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Rose Gold Goof podcast. Bye.